A man from West Yorkshire is facing jail after admitting he encouraged a vulnerable young man in the United States to take his own life during an online video call. Phelan, who is 21 and from Morley, pleaded guilty at Leeds Crown Court to encouraging the suicide of 21-year-old Travis Dyer from Louisiana. The case centers on events that prosecutors say took place on the 30th of October, 2024. The Crown Prosecution Service says Phelan was not simply present when Mr. Dyer died, but actively encouraged him during the call. Prosecutors say the two had been communicating for several months through Discord, the online platform where the contact took place. The court heard that, during the fatal call, Phelan was alongside two other people based in the United States as Mr. Dyer was urged to end his life. Mr. Dyer, who was from Tayo in Louisiana, was described in court reporting as a vulnerable young man who had been struggling with his mental health. News reports say he had experienced significant personal tragedy earlier in life, including the loss of his mother and younger sister in a car crash around a decade before his own death. Prosecutors say that vulnerability was exploited in online spaces rather than protected. What makes the case especially serious, according to the CPS, is that the encouragement was not an isolated act. Investigators say evidence showed that, in the months before Mr. Dyer's death, he had been subjected to sustained and serious encouragement to self-harm by members of the online group. That broader context is central to the prosecution case, which presents the fatal call not as a one-off exchange, but as part of a longer pattern of harmful online behavior. Phelan appeared before Leeds Crown Court on Wednesday, where he admitted the offence of encouraging suicide. He had previously pleaded guilty to separate offences involving an indecent image of a child and extreme pornography. The CPS says those offences are unrelated to the suicide case, but they will also form part of the overall sentencing picture when he returns to court later this year. The judge, Robin Mayers, adjourned the case for sentencing until the 22nd of May. Phelan was granted conditional bail, but the court made clear that custody is now a real prospect. According to reporters in court, the judge told him to prepare himself for prison. One of the bail conditions is that he must not have access to a device capable of going online. The CPS says Phelan later made admissions to police and accepted that his words were a factor in Mr. Dyer's death. ITV reports that he attended Elland Road Police Station in Leeds with his parents and disclosed his involvement. Prosecutors say the case is a stark example of how criminal conduct can take place through digital platforms, and that online spaces are not outside the reach of the law. In a statement issued after the guilty plea, CPS prosecutor Alex Johnson described the case as deeply disturbing and said the victim had been exploited through an online platform. The prosecution position is that this was deliberate encouragement directed at a vulnerable young man, with the intention that he would act on it. That language underlines how seriously the authorities are treating conduct that took place remotely, across borders, and through a live online call rather than in person. The case has also drawn attention because it crosses jurisdictions. The victim was in the United States, the defendant is from Britain, and the communications took place online. Even so, British prosecutors concluded there was sufficient evidence and a public interest in bringing the case before the courts here. The CPS says it worked closely with West Yorkshire Police during the investigation into the circumstances surrounding Mr. Dyer's death. For many observers, the case raises broader questions about the dangers of online communities in which vulnerable people may be manipulated, encouraged to self-harm, or exposed to sustained psychological pressure. Prosecutors have framed this case as a warning that digital abuse can have fatal real-world consequences, and that those who take part in that abuse can face serious criminal penalties. It is important to stress that the court has not yet passed sentence. What has happened so far is that Phelan has admitted the offence, and a judge has indicated that an immediate prison sentence is being actively considered. The final decision on length and terms of sentence will come when the case returns to Leeds Crown Court on the 22nd of May, with arrangements made for Mr. Dyer's family to follow proceedings by video link. The confirmed position is this: a 21-year-old man from West Yorkshire has pleaded guilty to encouraging the suicide of a 21-year-old American during an online call. Prosecutors say the victim was vulnerable and had been subjected to sustained harmful encouragement over time, and the defendant has now been warned by the judge to expect custody when he is sentenced in May.